Hey guys. It's
Hello.
been a couple weeks since we've done like an official post, so we need to get after it.
Yeah.
Um, Thanks for joining us. Hopefully
Welcome
you've had a good couple of
back.
weeks. Welcome back. Um, when we were living in Berlin, we made a decision, an active decision in our marriage to test it in a really big way. And what I mean by that is that when we moved into our apartment,
It was unfinished.
it was unfinished, there was unfurnished,
Furnished.
and we decided as a couple to purchase IKEA furniture, specifically a bunk bed for our children because they had to share a room. We found the perfect one,
The cheapest one.
which happened to be the cheapest one because we were only going to live there for one year at that point. And then what happened, babe?
We put it together.
We did.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually we did.
It got put together.
It
Not
did.
without it. Testing our marriage to the full, to the max.
Yep. So, what we have learned in our marriage, in every project that we do, is that we do things very differently. They usually have the same end result,
Yep. It always gets done.
but our process is very different. And in this case, our process was so different that it took us like 8 hours, I think, like a full day to finally finish the bed, to put it together. And by the end of it, neither of us were speaking to each other. We had, you work on this part, I'll work on this part. We can no longer talk. We survived IKEA. So that's,
Yeah.
we didn't mention that in the intro video that like, that's one of the reasons we should be divorced, but
Yeah. And I want to say probably a lot of you have had the same experience. If you've ever built anything or done a home DIY project.
anything, yeah. Whether it's like
you
yard
know what we're
work,
talking about.
Yeah. Like if you've been married a good amount of time or not at all, maybe not even very long, and you decided to tackle something,
Yeah.
it could take its toll. Actually, I have a friend of mine that her and her husband, I think they were still newlyweds, and she shared with me after our IKEA story. She shared with me that they put a desk together and didn't talk to each other for like 4 days afterwards. Good job, IKEA, testing the strength of marriage since I don't know when.
It's like World War II-ish time.
When they opened. So, they're just out there making marriages prove themselves. So, what we want to talk to you about today is along those lines.
Yeah. Communication is probably the backbone of it, but it's how to fight fair.
How to fight fair, because fights are going to happen when you're married. No matter how long you've been married, there's going to be things that you disagree about.
Yeah. Everything from, you fight about everything.
Yeah.
Little to big.
And to be clear, we have not mastered this 100%. This is still something that we work on in our marriage to help grow in, because there's things and like habits, and there's things that you do coming into a marriage that have served you well in the past, per se. Like they've been defensive techniques that you've established that just don't work anymore if you're going to be with that person forever. And sometimes marriage is a process of like undoing that.
Yeah. Knowing where to, like it's those landmines again. It's where to step and what not buttons. What buttons do you not want to push? Where do you want to go or not go?
Yeah. But I think it's also like it's more than that, because it's once the buttons have been pushed,
sometimes you can't undo it.
You can't. And so how do you navigate forward? Like how do you, I've pushed the buttons, now what? And so there's a couple of things that I've learned and that you've learned on how to navigate that situation. I know early on, my Aunt Carol was the one that was like, hey, you're going to fight. Just make sure that your fights, like when you fight, that you're fighting for each other, not against each other, which sounds really poetic and beautiful. And I think that's noble, but it's hard sometimes because sometimes in the heat of the moment, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Like you still want to be right.
You have that, and then you're in that fight or flight kind of
Yeah.
mindset. So
Yeah. So, if you end up in any kind of couples counseling or any kind of work, chances are that you will hear about the Gottmans. We have, because we've been in couples counseling, dealing with how to do this. And so we wanted to kind of share some of the things that we've learned. And I figured I'd start with what not to do. So the Gottmans, I'm going to pull up my phone here. The Gottmans are one of the things that they're famous for is they published what they call the 4 horsemen of marriage. So like these things cannot exist in a healthy marriage. And they are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So with criticism, obviously that's just like criticizing your partner, picking at them, making everything like critical. Yeah, like criticizing. Contempt is like that feeling of contempt. Like it's, how would you explain it?
As soon as you said it, I was like, I don't know, how do you define it in a way?
Yeah,
Besides what it is?
Besides what it is. I think contempt for me is like this harboring of bad feelings.
Yeah, there's no grace. There's no letting of things go.
Yeah, like it's more than criticism. It's like internal.
Yeah, from past hurts.
Yeah, like it's just like the person can never do anything right, and it's just that feeling that you have about them. And then defensiveness is just that like I not ever owning anything. Like it's always the other person. You're always on defense.
Which is, that's a big one for me. I know it's the but.
Like, yeah, like I did this but like I always need to defend myself. Yeah. And that's, I think, a big one for a lot of people. And then stonewalling, that was actually, so that's where you just like completely ignore and shut off the person. That was my go-to for a lot of years where my response was just to be like, I don't want to like, I've learned now that for me, so that is the important thing in learning what it is in those 4 things where you see yourself is that then you can kind of manage and navigate. So I've learned that the reason my go-to is stonewalling is because in order to heal, I often need alone time. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think it started from this point of like, I'm just not going to talk to you. I think it starts from I need space, but that's how it comes out.
Yeah.
And so for myself, I've worked really hard in our marriage and in other relationships on like just announcing it. I'm going to take some space. I'm going to go in the other room because I feel myself getting heated and I need to calm down. Because oftentimes once I've been alone for a little bit and I have thought it over, I've prayed it over, I've done all of that, I can come out of our room or wherever I've gone for a walk or whatever. I can come back and be like, okay, babe, I'm sorry. Let's work on this. But I need that space. And so I've learned that about myself. And I think that's the power in realizing, like you said, with yours is defensiveness.
Yeah, it's not that, for me, it's, for that one, it's a go-to, but it's like, I want my side to be heard as well. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, maybe my actions were, this is why I acted this way, or this is why this happened. Mm-hmm. Not, whether I'm right or wrong. It's just, I want my side of the story to also be heard, I guess. Which, done in the wrong way, does come off very no blame, like not taking responsibility for any of my actions. So.
Yeah, so it's like learning how to communicate with each other.
Or when I stonewall, it's more of, I know, like when I do that, it's more of like, I don't want to add to the argument because most of the time our arguments are petty.
They go in circles. Like that's the problem
and
too.
And it's just, I don't want to add to it. Like,
yeah.
And I don't want to like just brush it under the rug and move on either, but it's also like, I'm done giving energy to this and then so it's like becomes a
And
stone
then I
wall
get
of
offended
like, yeah.
because I'm not done.
So it's a thing. So we're still learning
We're still
on
works in
how to
progress.
communicate.
But that was something that was really important to me to like to learn about and to say, okay, these four things. So the way that they came about discovering that those four things are that why they called them the horsemen is that they've done years and years and decades of research, and couples that are regularly doing that don't make it.
Yeah, they're killers to
They kill your intimacy,
Yeah.
your relationship. Yeah. So, you know, you gotta like learn to own it, learn to not criticize the other person, like learn what's important in your life, like what is worth fighting over.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, realize that you truly love and care for that person, and that's what should matter, and not how to put together a piece of furniture or where something goes on a shelf.
And sometimes it's big fights. Sometimes it's about finances. Sometimes it's about parenting.
Kids, yeah.
You got to learn how to fight well, because that's the other part is that like on that parenting line, like I want to teach my kids how to fight well. I don't want them.
It's not even how to fight well. It's how to communicate.
How to communicate. That's true.
Yeah.
I say fight well. It's how to communicate when you're frustrated and angry, and how to manage your own reactions.
Yeah, because nobody wants to be talked to, talked at, barked at, whatever.
Right. And so whether that's like I need my space for a minute, but communicating that, because that was so for Tyler, it would drive him crazy because I would withdraw and then he would be like, "What, are you leaving me?" And I was like, "No, I just need like my space for a while." And then it was like, okay, I need to communicate this better. And that's where I've started, like I said, just, hey, I need space then. Like, I'm going to need to think this over. I'm going to need you to just leave me for a second. Because then I'll be fine. Give me 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think along the lines, though, too, of, like you said, realizing that you're on the same team is so important. One of the impactful things that we did, it was a challenge that we did a while ago. We kind of let it go.
Yeah.
But it was really important, and on those hard days, even more important, where we challenged each other to go to bed every night. Like as we were going to bed every night, we had to say one thing.
Like an affirmation.
An affirmation to the other person, something you appreciate about them, and there were no repeats allowed. So at first, it's easy.
Yeah,
you're like, well, I appreciate that you did the dishes.
Yeah,
I appreciate that you fill in the like. There's certain things that you're like, I know my spouse does, and I appreciate that. And then after about a month, you're on like 30 things that you appreciate. You start having to look, right?
Yeah.
Like actively search for something. And I know that for me, like especially on those hard days when we were fighting, you don't want to go to bed and say something you appreciate. Right? Like you're mad at the person. You want to be like, I appreciate that you did this, or that's when it's most important.
Yeah.
Anything else? Like
no,
I feel like I'm doing all the talking on this one.
No, I agree. There was days that were difficult. It's also, I felt like for you, that being one of your love languages meant a lot.
Yeah, I'm a words of affirmation person, so that was something that was extremely meaningful.
Yeah.
You are a physical touch person, so I think adding to that, like making time to connect, like whether it's holding hands, whether it's snuggling, whatever.
Yeah.
Even when you're angry, taking time to let the other person know that you love them.
Yeah. There is the weird thing that our counselor, we've never done it.
We did not do this.
At least yet. He always said that, I don't know if it was in a book that he said.
No, he said he had like
clients or
somebody. I don't know.
And they were supposed to like, any argument they had to do naked.
Yeah.
Because it just made everything.
Like if they were going to fight, they had to fight naked.
And have that argument that way. Because it made it awkward or weird or just.
It like broke the cycle is what you talked about.
That, yeah. It's like you have no, like that safety of clothing or that. Like,
there's no like being like super proud and like
yeah, all's exposed, which is fine because you've most likely seen each other naked anyway.
You
But
have. I don't know.
it's a weird. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll try it. But
Well, um, I think that in the moment it's hard to do things like that
yeah,
sometimes too. Because I know that there was also one where you play it, like you find a song that's funny, and you play the song while you fight. Or there's like things where, like there's these, I saw a video on people that had to wear a birthday hat, like one of the little, like, you know.
And I've read the same
shaped
things
hat.
when it comes to like headaches or migraines. Like if you're starting to feel one like coming on, sometimes like a super sour candy or something like it breaks like the thought process. Or
Yeah, like with anxiety that helps.
maybe
and
it was
things
anxiety,
like that.
not
Yeah,
migraine.
probably not migraines.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe migraines. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
But I know that with anxiety, that kind of thing helps too, to just like break the cycle, because you can't get out of the cycle and the loop. And so those are like, and that was our counselor was like, find something silly that you can do to break the cycle.
Yeah.
I did download a song. I've never played it in an argument. Maybe.
So we can't tell you if they work or not.
I cannot tell you if that works, but it sounds.
It came recommended.
Interesting. Some of those solutions sound interesting. But I think all of that boils down to what you said.
Yeah, it's how do you want to leave, for work the next day or that day, or go to bed and feel about the person that you're with.
Yeah.
So
because all of it, like, you can't
undo things. And so when somebody, I hear people who fight, whether it's, to each other, or like sometimes you see it in public.
Mm-hmm. People that are mean to other people.
Yeah, and they just like the things they say to each other, and it's like, how can you say that about somebody you love? Because once you say it, it's like
it's out there.
It's out there. It's gonna be hard to not harbor that thought. That's like what they really think about you, or I don't know. And it's
I know that I've had things said to me by people who are in a state of anger, but then it makes me question, like, what they said made me question our entire relationship. And is that really how you feel about me? And it's hard to get over.
Yeah, and just when somebody says something, it doesn't even have to be about relationships. I know there's sometimes things just stick, and so it's hard. True. It's like, and it's hard to hear about when other people say it, because it's like, I wouldn't want my kids to talk that way.
And that's the thing, like,
a stranger, let alone somebody.
Don't call people names. Just like, there's definitely things that cross the line.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And the thing is
physical.
Obviously, yeah.
Verbal. I mean, there's so
physical and verbal abuse are never okay in
any
any form, and that's like, definitely, if you're experiencing that, seek some help. Like, get out, like, see somebody. You
just got to work on our communication.
If you have the anger issues, if you are the person who is doing that, please get help.
Yeah. Work on your communication.
Ultimately, that one of the things that I've been learning this year too is you cannot control what other people do. I just read "Let Them" by Mel Robbins. So, you can't control them, but because it's true. I can't control what you say. I can't control what you do. I can't control, like, there's so much out of my control. What I can control is how I respond,
mm-hmm.
and how I guard the peace. Right? Like, how do I, and so there are times that, like, panic brain takes over, and you make a mistake and you step in it. But I think that's where it's learning to apologize and try to do better. Know that so here's the thing. I actually have been like, in my brain, I've been playing with this a lot lately, because it's like I've always been like the proof is in the pudding kind of person. And I think that there's truth to that, but I also think that people are going to fail over and over and over again, because we're human. So I think that there's also barring, like we talked about, like, abusive situations, I think that there's also grace in realizing that, like, the people in our lives are never going to be perfect.
Mm-mm.
They're never going to hit 100% of the situations perfectly. I'm not, you're not. We're going to make mistakes, and there also needs to be a heaping amount of grace in your marriage and in your other relationships for that reason. I think that like
Yeah, and I think
I'm setting you up to fail if I'm like, well, if you
yeah.
ever do this again, then that means you weren't sorry. No.
Yeah, and some things take longer to get there than others, but I think that's really important to note.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we're at our time limit for today. Hopefully you guys took something away from that. So we are still a work in progress.
Working on it.
Hopefully you will be a work in progress alongside us. And in the meantime, I think next time we were going to talk about parenting again, but from a different angle. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about a message I got from a parent about raising kids and what I noticed as a teacher. So we're going to kind of take that angle as like, what is it like as a teacher, and what recommendations would we have seeing everybody's kids away from them?
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you for being here with us. If you have questions, comments, not mean ones, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening.